Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. We start the movie with a person who seems to have just come out of chaos. There was a metal ring around his neck and had wings he used to fly with. At that time, the wings were suffocating him, so he took out a dagger and cut off his wings. Because of that, the ring around his neck was released as if it was the prison holding him back. Afterward, the ninja moved in darkness and entered a weapon storage because he was in desperate need of 2 weapons. His father didn't do his duty with him, and the security there clashed with him to stop him. However, he managed to destroy them and entered the storage effortlessly. Contrary to expectations, he didn't go to get weapons. He first went to the bathroom to clean his wounds, feel a bit better, love himself, and cherish life. After that, he came out, wore new clothes, and stole a large number of weapons enough. He destroyed the storage door and left like a prince of his time. However, he wasn't very lucky as a patrol noticed him, came down to arrest him, but they weren't lucky either for thinking of clashing with him for a moment. He succeeded in taking one of them hostage, and the second officer's body started convulsing, and his features changed as if another creature was living inside him, resembling a monster or demon. At that moment, he asks Michael, the ninja. The officer asked Michael to comply with all the required demands and execute them, or else he and the child would die. However, Michael was extraordinary. He didn't care about the monster's words. The officer shot at Michael and the hostage officer, killing the hostage officer. But Michael succeeded in killing the monster officer. Afterward, he takes the car, gets in with style, and drives off into the unknown. Michael was strange and had something incomprehensible about him, like a mysterious man with no clear identity. As he drove his car, all the lights and energy on the road would go out as soon as he passed by, as if his body was absorbing all the surrounding energy. We then move to another person named Jeb, who wakes up anxious and terrified from a nightmare he saw in his dream. This dream kept recurring, and he couldn't sleep because of it. He leaves his place to take a walk outside, hoping to calm down and be able to sleep again. Outside, he meets Charlie, his girlfriend, who also knows about his nightmares and tries to calm him down and reassure him. She tells him that the reason for these nightmares is likely because she's about to give birth to their child, which is making him anxious. Charlie also presses him further, saying that once she gives birth, she'll give their child up for adoption so someone else can take care of him and secure a good life for him. This is because she and Jeb can barely support themselves as they live in a caravan on the street. Charlie leaves Jeb lost in his thoughts and goes to sleep. In the morning, Charlie heads to her job at a gas station diner. There, she meets Kyle. Afterward, she goes inside to continue her daily routine. In the diner, her manager asks her to quit smoking for the sake of her unborn child, so he doesn't come into the world deformed or with issues. Kyle asks Bob for a phone because he doesn't have a network on his. However, a man named Howard interrupts them, asking Bob if the worker there has finished fixing his car. Bob goes out to meet his son, Jeb, to ask about the man's car, but finds Jeb making a crib for Charlie's unborn child. Bob asks him to focus on his work and let go of other illusions because Charlie doesn't love him and will never think of loving him. They're only having a child together. But Jeb refuses his father's words and explains that he's been having strange nightmares, feeling that something bad will happen to them. He wants to secure their lives because ever since Charlie got pregnant, all his dreams about the coming child have been bad. While they were talking, they noticed a strong sandstorm approaching them. They quickly went inside the diner, where all the signals in the area were cut off, including the TV and phones, even the landline Kyle tried to use. It was as if they were isolated from the whole world, unable to contact anyone. At that moment, an old strange woman entered the diner. When Charlie went to take her order, the old woman told Charlie that her child would burn in hell and die in torment. Charlie was upset by the woman's words, and Howard heard her talking. However, Howard couldn't tolerate the old woman's words, as Charlie had had enough of them. He yelled at her with all his might, but suddenly the old woman attacked him, biting his neck with great force and tearing off a large part of it. The old woman turned out to be like a spider, climbing walls and standing on the ceiling as if she were a young person in her 20s, not an old woman. Her features and teeth resembled those of a demon. The whole place went into chaos, and many people ran out of the diner to save themselves. Bob grabbed his rifle and tried to kill the old woman, but she jumped onto the wall, landed in front of him, and threw him to the ground with her strength. The rifle fell under Jeb's feet. Jeb picked it up and tried to shoot the old woman approaching him quickly, but his fear was greater, and he couldn't kill her. Suddenly, Kyle arrived and shot the old woman with his gun, saving the situation quickly. Sandra, Howard's wife, ran to check on him, terrified, but he was on the verge of death. They tried to stop the bleeding to no avail. They put him in the car to take him to the nearest hospital to save him, but the storm was approaching them at a high speed. A girl named Audrey informed them that what was coming wasn't a storm, but a massive swarm of flying insects. The insects began entering their car, and they were terrified. They had to return to the diner, failing to get Howard to the hospital. When they entered the diner, the old woman was still there, and no one could bear to see her. They quickly took her outside and threw her into the desert for the insects to feast on her. At that moment, the ghost Michael arrived, driving a police car. However, Jeb noticed that the police car wasn't from their city but from another city. They felt uneasy, not wanting to be deceived again like with the old woman. Immediately, Bob grabbed his rifle, pointed it at Michael, and demanded to see his teeth before shooting him to ensure he wasn't like the old woman. Michael shows them his teeth, and once they feel assured, Michael quickly grabs the rifle from Bobby to carry out what's next. At that moment, he informs them that many similar to the old woman are approaching them. He distributes a large number of weapons to them, and they enter the restaurant, securing it well from the inside and outside before the attack begins. The electricity goes out in the entire place, turning daylight into darkness, leaving no energy in the area. A car approaches them, and they climb to the restaurant's roof to prepare for any confrontation. From the car emerges one of the creatures, similar to the old woman, approaching them quickly, moving on its hands and feet. However, they manage to kill it and eliminate it. They think that the danger for the day has ended, but moments later, they are shocked by a large number of cars speeding toward them. Michael and his group fire a significant number of bullets at the cars, successfully destroying many of them. Afterward, the remaining drivers, who survived in the other cars, descend and attack the restaurant with full force. They enter the restaurant and capture Howard. Charlie tries to save him from their grip. When the creature sees Charlie, it expresses joy, telling her how happy it is to have found her, and that they will soon take her and get rid of what's inside her. However, Michael quickly arrives and opens fire on all the creatures, managing to drive them away from the restaurant. Then Bobo arrives, confused and worried about his life and the lives of his entire family. He asks Michael to explain what is happening, because they cannot continue in this situation without understanding what is going on. Michael begins to speak, explaining that is because injustice and corruption on Earth. He says that a revolution is necessary to cleanse the Earth, and that's why they are eliminating all humans. He reveals that they specifically want to kill Charlie and her son because Charlie's son is humanity's only hope for survival and escaping the evil that is about to reach them. He states that he is there to protect humanity, especially Charlie's son, until he arrives safely. The primary goal of all the creatures is to kill the child to eliminate humanity and bring it to an end. The attack they experienced was a test of their strength and endurance, but the second attack will be harder because it will test their weaknesses. At that time, the creatures will focus all their attacks on each person's weak points to eliminate them. With each new phase, things will become much worse and more challenging than the previous one. Everyone was shocked and didn't know what to say, especially Charlie, who was extremely scared for her son and couldn't understand why her son, in particular, was the target. Michael explained to them that there was no time for hesitation. He assigned each of them specific positions in the restaurant to secure it against any unexpected attacks or creatures. Everyone was terrified, trying to protect themselves. While Michael was with Gabe asked him why all of this was happening and why he specifically came to protect them. Michael explained that he decided to protect those who truly deserve it. Without considering anything about them, he came to protect Jebbai himself. At this point, Michael asked Jebbai to take care of himself, focus, and stay alert because the second attack was near, and they needed to prepare in the best way to protect their lives, especially the life of Charlie's son. The next morning, Sandy wakes up. Howard woke up to a sound resembling her husband's voice, calling out to her and seeking her help. Without warning, Sandra got up and followed the voice, hoping to find her husband alive and well. She weakened and opened the door, stepping out of the restaurant. The moment she stepped outside, she screamed when she saw her husband tied to a wooden post in front of the restaurant, pleading for her to save and untie him. However, her husband's body looked very strange, with pulsating bubbles that were bursting. As Sandra ran towards her husband, Percy quickly grabbed her and tried to run back with her to the restaurant. But Howard's body released strange water due to the bursting bubbles, and Percy quickly wrapped Sandra to shield her, taking all the water onto his back. He managed to get Sandra back inside the restaurant, but Percy collapsed, and the strange water that had come from Howard's body had burned his entire back, melting his bones to the point where his thin nerve threads were visible. Percy died at that moment. Bob was shocked by what had happened and blamed himself entirely, unable to forgive himself for falling asleep during his watch over the restaurant. He hadn't noticed Howard outside, or Sandra leaving to save him. They collectively decided to tie Sandra to a chair to prevent her from moving again and causing more problems. Her daughter, Audrey, sat beside her to console her, but Sandra blamed herself for everything. She felt responsible for them leaving the house and coming to the restaurant. Audrey, frustrated with her mother, went to the radio, trying to pick up any signal to contact someone or find other survivors who might help. At that moment, they heard an announcement spreading across all radio stations that the monsters had spread throughout the country. Many people had died. Chaos was everywhere, and the army and police were trying to eliminate the monsters and secure the area. However, the situation was difficult for everyone. They urged people to stay in their homes and avoid locations heavily infested with monsters. They then noticed a car approaching the restaurant. A frightened man got out, trying to fill his car with gas while his son remained inside the vehicle. Meanwhile, Kyle was securing the restaurant's roof, and suddenly, the electricity in the area came back on. Kyle realized that the monsters had restored the electricity to lure people on the road to the gas station and trap them. The monsters attacked the car, killing the father and taking the child. Kyle, unable to stand by and watch, decided to intervene. He went down and managed to kill several monsters, reaching the child and taking him. But by then, the child had also turned into a monster. It was a trap, preying on their weaknesses. Kyle was killed in the process. Audrey witnessed the entire scene and couldn't stand still. She left the restaurant to save Kyle but was surrounded by monsters. She quickly got into the car to protect herself. Everyone in the restaurant saw what had happened but couldn't move or do anything because of the monsters outside. Michael was the only one capable of acting, but his primary mission was to protect Charlie's son. He refused to leave, determined to protect him from any ambush. Charlie, however, threatened Michael, saying that if he didn't go out and save Audrey, she would go herself, even if it meant her death. Audrey was still young and Charlie couldn't sacrifice her for her unborn son. Michael decided to go out to prevent Charlie from doing anything reckless. He armed himself and went out, killing all the monsters surrounding the car. The car caught fire during the chaos, but Michael managed to enter the flames without any harm, rescuing Audrey and bringing her back to the restaurant. However, Michael's fears came true when the child-turned-monster managed to sneak into the restaurant unnoticed. Armed with a knife, he attacked Charlie, inflicting a deep wound on her abdomen. Michael quickly intervened, injuring the child and rushing to protect Charlie. The child tried to attack Bob, but Jebby grabbed a gun and killed the child. The bigger problem, however, was Charlie's severe injury, which threatened her unborn son's life. Michael and Audrey worked to deliver Charlie's baby safely. The child was born prematurely, and the moment he was born, all the creatures and monsters surrounding the restaurant let out a loud scream. The birth of the child signified their demise and the protection of humanity. Michael reassured them that the monsters could no longer approach the child because the situation had escalated beyond their control. However, the real threat now was Gabriel, who had been assigned to kill the child. Gabriel's mission was to do what Michael had refused to do. Michael explained to Charlie and the others that they needed to leave the restaurant as quickly as possible. Suddenly, Sandra took the child, threatening to hand him over to the monsters so they could take what they came for, allowing her and her daughter to live in peace. She justified her actions by claiming that Charlie didn't want the child and had planned to give him up for adoption. A strong light appeared from the back door of the restaurant, where Sandra was standing. Before the door could fully open, Michael managed to kill Sandra. Jebby quickly grabbed the child, protecting him from falling. At that moment, Gabriel entered the restaurant, shocking everyone, especially Jebby, who was lying at his feet. Gabriel raised his weapon, attempting to kill the child and Jebby. Jebby managed to escape, but Bob intervened, trying to save his son. He fired at Gabriel, but Gabriel was unaffected. Gabriel approached Bob, delivering a fatal blow with his weapon. Jebby tried to return to save his father, but Michael instructed him to escape with the child while he delayed Gabriel as much as possible. Michael confronted Gabriel, explaining that the child was humanity's only hope and asking him to protect the child because humanity deserved a second chance. However, Gabriel rejected his words. They prepared themselves for the beginning of the legendary battle between them, and a great fight erupted. Gabriel managed to dominate the entire time due to his large wings, which protected him from bullets, unlike Michael, who had his wings cut off and lost a significant portion of his strength. But Michael managed to jump on Gabriel's back and tried to strangle him. However, Gabriel stabbed himself with his large weapon, the stab piercing through his entire body and into Michael's body, causing him a severe injury. At that moment, Gabriel cried for his friend Michael, who had been his loyal companion throughout his life. Before dying, Michael told him, "I wished you would live as one of your own, but unfortunately, you will die as one of them." Michael dies then. Gabriel was about to leave the restaurant, but Bob was still alive on the ground. He had cut the gas pipes of the stove and said to Gabriel, "There is no escape from here." Lighting his lighter, the entire place exploded, killing them along with the monsters surrounding the restaurant from the outside. At that moment, Jebby took Charlie, Audrey, and their child, trying to escape with them in the car. Something strange happened. The markings that used to appear on Michael's body suddenly appeared all at once on Jebby's body. Gabriel then reaches them again, still alive, having managed to escape the restaurant before it exploded. He joins them with violence, destroying their car and flipping it over on the road. At that moment, Charlie managed to get the baby out safely. She went to Yebby, woke him up, and took him from the car to escape. She informed him that Audrey had died in the accident. The three of them tried to escape quickly and hide in any shelter. However, Gabriel reached them, struck Yebby forcefully, and attempted to kill the baby. Just before he could finish Yebby off and kill him, Michael suddenly arrived with new wings. He leaped with all his strength onto Gabriel, saving Yebby. At that moment, Michael informed Yebby that they were supposed to be the new hope for humanity, to live through them and achieve everything they had wished for, not to try to kill and seek revenge against them. Gabriel stopped, realizing he had lost the battle. He left them and walked away. Yebba thanked Gabriel for saving him and his family. Michael told him that he was now the new guardian and protector of Charlie and her son. He left them and walked away. Yebba lived with Charlie and their son, who grew up. They managed to survive and spent the rest of their lives in peace and happiness after succeeding in taking a second chance to enjoy life once again. And the movie ends here. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates.